Hello. Everyone can hear me okay?
Yeah, hello,
Perfect. Thank you.
welcome.
Hello, everyone. I'm Nicole Neal. I'm the Associate Dean of Research at the Faculty of Education in Western. I'm just going to start with a land acknowledgement. We acknowledge that Western University is located on the traditional territories of the Anishinaabeg, the Haudenosaunee, the Lenape, and the Chinookan nations on lands connected with the London Township and Sombre Treaties of 1796 and the Dish with One Spoon Covenant Wampum. This land continues to be home to diverse Indigenous peoples, First Nation, Métis, and Inuit, whom we recognize as contemporary stewards of the land and vital contributors of our society. I am pleased to introduce Dr. Pejman Habibi, who serves as an assistant professor in the Faculty of Education at Western University, where he instructs graduate courses in curriculum studies and studies in applied linguistics. As a founding co-editor of both the Journal of English for Research Publication Purposes and the Routledge Studies in English for Research Publication Purposes book series, Dr. Habibi is an influential voice in the field of English for research publication purposes. His research interests encompass the geopolitics, socioeconomics, and scientometrics of knowledge construction and dissemination, the impact of generative AI on global knowledge economy and academic literacies. Dr. Habibi's scholarship has been featured in renowned international journals, including the Annual Review of Applied Linguistics, the Journal of Second Language Writing, and Research Methods in Applied Linguistics, as well as through several authored and edited books. He has also presented his work to broader audiences as a keynote speaker and presenter at prestigious international conferences, including NYS TESOL, the American Association for Applied Linguistics, Writing Across Borders, and the Symposium on Second Language Writing. And he's going to share his knowledge about publication in academic journals with us. And so thank you so much for taking the time to share with us today.
Thank you for the introduction. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for the in-person attendees and also the online attendees. It's a great pleasure to be here with you today and to talk about a topic that is really near and dear to me and to many of you. I would also like to thank the Faculty of Education, Western University, and the organizers for putting together this interesting event and making it available for our online audience. So let's take a brief look at the roadmap of my presentation. I don't know why we can't move to the next slide. Maybe. No, it's not working. Okay, so here is the topics that I'll be talking about today. I'll briefly talk about the global knowledge economy and then the challenges that novice scholars and graduate students are facing in this knowledge economy. I'll try to demystify the publication process and to explain what happens when you decide to publish and submit to academic journals. I will also talk about the expectations of the most common rhetorical structure and format that we have in many journals, the MRAD format. Then I'll move to predatory publishing and predatory journals and the use of generative artificial intelligence in publication in journals. And also at the end, I'll give you some tips and recommendations, and I'll open the floor for questions and answers. Both in-person and online audience can join. And I would like to, we have plenty of time for this to make this as interactive as possible. So there's no doubt that we are living and breathing in a capitalist neoliberal knowledge economy in which knowledge is a commodity whose production consumption, circulation, communication, and dissemination are the hallmarks of this economy. So a major marker of the efficiency of academic institutions and individual scholars in this economy is to produce knowledge, to contribute to the global knowledge economy, and to raise the rankings of their institutions and themselves in the global ranking regimes. And this efficiency is measured by strict regimes of audit and evaluation at institutional and local and global levels. All these indexes and rankings that we see for universities, for scholars. So this major role of scholarly productivity in the form of publishing in academic journals has important implications for academic lives and careers of researchers, especially graduate students and novice scholars, for their survival, establishment, and advancement in current academia. Especially for those scholars who speak English as an additional language, and especially those scholars from peripheral and semi-peripheral contexts and under-resourced contexts, for example, the global South. So this important role of scholarly publication in today's academia requires that we look at the dynamics of knowledge production and dissemination, and to study the landscape and the dynamics of knowledge production and dissemination. And the emerging knowledge can help us develop institutional policies, practices, initiatives to support graduate students and novice scholars for participating and contributing to this knowledge economy. So this is generally the topic that I'll be focusing on in this talk. So in addressing this topic, I will draw on my professional and educational background and identities as a published author and as a researcher in the field of English for research publication purposes. So this is a newly established and fast-growing field within English for academic purposes and applied linguistics that looks at the geopolitics and socioeconomics of knowledge production and dissemination, and writing for scholarly publication in different international contexts. I will also use my professional experience as the founding co-editor of the Journal of English for Research Publication Purposes. That is a journal dedicated to research and scholarship in the field of English for research publication purposes. And also my role as a founding co-editor of the Routledge book series, Routledge Studies in English for Research Publication Purposes, which is again a book series dedicated to research and scholarship in the field of English for research publication purposes. So research in this field, generally speaking, looks at one of the main areas that research has looked at is the challenges that novice scholars and junior scholars are facing for writing and publishing in academic journals. And these challenges and struggles are basically divided into two major groups. There is linguistic challenges or discursive challenges. For example, challenges regarding, especially for English as an additional language scholars, formal structural aspects of writing, for example, grammar, vocabulary, stylistic preferences of different academic journals, rhetorical challenges, so trying to be argumentative and to present a well structured argument, for example, and also writing different sections of the journal article, introduction, methodology, results, and discussion. And also the challenges with the review process. So what happens when you submit your paper to a journal, the review process, and communicating with gatekeepers, including editors and reviewers, and the discursive and linguistic aspect of that communication. Research has also looked at non-discursive or non-linguistic challenges that many novice scholars and junior scholars are facing. For example, the publish and perish pressure that many of us are under in current academia. Graduate students need to publish during their doctoral tenure in order to be competitive in the job market, in order to find better jobs. In addition to that, personal and familial responsibilities, again, are non-linguistic challenges that many novice scholars are facing, which negatively impact their writing and publishing practices. And also emotional and affective aspect of and physical problems that you're dealing with, health problems that happen because of graduate studies and the pressure, stress, discouragement that people face when their papers get rejected or they can't publish in academic journals, and the burnout of doing graduate studies and also publishing in academic journals. In many under-resourced contexts, having access to state-of-the-art literature, scholarship, especially peripheral and semi-peripheral contexts, the global south. So they don't have the luxury that graduate students have in Anglophone contexts and in core contexts, mainstream contexts, in terms of having access to the literature, technology, having access to text mediation. So many second language writers, they need their papers to be translated or to be copy edited, and they have to pay for that. So there's financial issues that they're facing for writing and publishing in academic journals. Mentorship and support, which is a big problem that many times graduate students, irrespective of their context, whether they are studying in the core or in the periphery, nowadays supervisors and mentors are very busy. A lot of time they do not invest in their mentorship responsibilities or co-publish with their supervisees and with their students, and also the initiatives that are necessary for that. So writing centers, academic institutions need to provide workshops, seminars, presentations such as this to socialize graduate students into writing and publishing. And a lot of times that's missing in many academic contexts. Also, there is the risk of predatory publishing, that because on the one hand, people are pushed to publish, and on the other hand, there isn't enough support. So they may resort to predatory publishers or fall prey to predatory publishers, which is going to impact their academic prospects for the rest of their lives. Also, the publication process literacy, which is a mysterious process for many novice scholars. So they have no idea, how to submit and what happens when they submit, and then, how to deal with the decisions that they receive and to negotiate with gatekeepers. So those are the specific topics that I will be addressing in this presentation. So the struggles and challenges and keep in mind that this list is not an exhaustive list, and I'm sure that each of you can add many items to these lists as to what challenges or struggles you're facing for publishing in academic journals. So these challenges, they emerge from the fact that the publication process from the writing phase to the publishing phase is a mysterious phase to many junior scholars, so which needs to be demystified. And many junior scholars basically are facing these key questions. So what are the expectations regarding a well-written paper? So if I write something, how can I make sure that it meets the expectations of the academic journals? What are the procedures of submission process? So how can I submit that and make sure that I'm on the right track? What are the procedures of gatekeeping process? So when reviewers and editors, they see my paper, what happens? So this process especially is a mysterious process for many novice scholars because they don't know the behind the scene of academic journals. And also, what are the perils and risks facing novice scholars? So we are living in a very dangerous context, academic context, where because of the pressures for publishing and presenting in academic conferences, there are people who are exploiting this pressure, and they're abusing actually this system to make a lot of money, and this negatively impacts the future of many graduate students. So these are the topics that I will discuss specifically. So when writing for publication, we need to be very strategic. So we need to have a very strategic approach in the writing phase and in the publishing phase. For many novice scholars, the process of writing and publishing starts with writing a paper and then sending that to a journal. But I would like to say that the very first step in publishing a paper should be targeting an appropriate journal. So you need to know where you want to submit even before writing your paper. So what you need to know is where I want to submit my paper. So you need to do some research about the journals or the journal that you want to submit to. So in other words, to know the ontogenesis of the journal, the life history of the journal. So it requires that you go online and you use different resources, both in person and online resources, to know the journals that you want to publish in. So the very first step in the publication process is targeting the appropriate journal. So searching and finding journals and then studying those journals. So why do we need to, and what do we need to know, and why do we have to do this? And I will explain later that why this step should be the first step and is a critical step in this process. So the very first thing for you to target a journal is to know the aims and scope of your journal. So what kind of articles this specific journal publishes. Each journal has specific aims and scope. So if you go to the website of the journal, you can see that there is a part that says about this journal. And then there, the journal basically, or the editorial board of journal explains that this journal publishes this kind of scholarship or research. For example, let's say that if my journal publishes papers on academic writing, you cannot submit a research that is in the area of listening or reading to my journal, because that doesn't match the aims and scope of my journal. So the aims and scope of the journal basically tells you what is the content, the desired or desirable content for that journal. What is it that they publish, or what is it that they don't publish? Of course, a lot of times when junior scholars, they read the scope and aims, they get more confused because the aims and scope is like one paragraph and it's not that clear. And I will explain what else you can do to know the aims and scope of the journal and to make sure that this is the right place for my submission. This is the right target. Also, on the journal websites, you can see the editorial board of the journal. So each journal has 1, 2, 3 editors or co-editors. There is a book review editor if they publish book reviews, or book review editors. And then there is an editorial board who are members of that journal, and they are established scholars in that journal. And they are the ones that when you submit your paper, the editor sends your paper for review to those people. So if you see familiar names there, so you can make, it's a good sign to make sure that, okay, this is the journal. You may see the names of your professors on editorial boards of journals and make sure that, okay, this is the journal that is the target journal for me. You may see the names of people who you have cited in or you're going to cite in your paper. So it's a sign that, it's the appropriate journal. And a lot of times, again, when we get to the review process, those are the people that the editors send your manuscript to for review. So let's say that if your paper is related to my area and I am on the editorial board of that journal, most probably the editor would send your paper to me. There is no guarantee, and because the review process is not an open process, it's a blind process, but I'm just explaining this to show that there is signs that you can make sure that this is a good journal for me. Then on the website of journals, there is some metric data or bibliometric data. For example, it shows that this journal is indexed in Scopus, in Web of Science. So you see that what is very important in ranking journals nowadays is where they are indexed. So Scopus and Web of Science are the two most important indexes that many journals, kill themselves to get indexed in those indexes. And if a journal is indexed in those databases, it shows that most probably it's a prestigious journal. And you don't want to publish your paper in a journal that is not indexed, because you need that indexed when you want to get a promotion, when you want to get hired, when people value or look at you, examine your paper or your publication. It's important that where was this paper published. So that's why the journal and targeting the appropriate journal is very important. You can also see the impact factor. So each journal has an impact factor. The higher the impact factor, the most prestigious journal is will be in a field. So the impact factor depends on who publishes in those journals, how many times they publish, how many citations they get. So pay attention to those indicators. That a good impact factor means that this is a prestigious journal. Also, there is data that shows how many citations the articles received after getting published. So again, it shows the prestige, and you know that nowadays we are living in a prestige economy. Look at what is happening in our everyday life. People are using social media to make a brand for themselves and to survive in this prestige economy. So you can get information about what paper was most cited, that was published in that journal, and other bibliometric data that you can, glean from journal websites. Also, what is very important, and many times people don't pay attention to, is who publishes this journal. Let's say that if a journal is published by a predatory publisher or a publisher that is not internationally known, so this lowers your chance of getting promoted, getting a job, or getting the attention that you need when applying for a job or for other academic requirements. So some of the most important publishers in today's knowledge economy are Elsevier, the biggest publisher, Wiley, Taylor, Francis, or Routledge, and Springer. Those are but there are other publishers as well. But these are the four biggest publishers, actually. And if a journal is published by these publishers, so again, it helps you in two ways. First, you know that this journal is not a predatory journal. So, it has a history because a famous international publisher is publishing this journal. And second of all, it means that this journal can be considered as a prestigious journal. Journals are also ranked. You know that in this global knowledge economy, everything and everybody is ranked, even academics. So look at Google Scholar. So your citations are ranked every year. There is this list of first 200 researchers in this discipline, this field. Universities are ranked. Also, journals are ranked. So there is Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4 journals. So the highest being Q1. So again, you should pay attention to that information because, as I said, it has major implications for your future academic jobs, promotion, which journal you publish in. Another important information is the publication intervals. So how many issues they publish per year. So they have a volume, which is the total number of papers and everything that they publish during a year. And then this volume is broken down into smaller pieces. So let's say that my journal publishes 2 issues per year. So there's one volume, 2 issues. There are journals that publish 4 issues or 8 issues sometimes a year. So this is also very important because it gives you some signs that if you submit to a journal that gets a lot of submissions, so it means that it extends the time that your paper gets published. So the review time will be longer. So those are some of the signs that you should pay attention to. Then whether this journal is open access or is it subscription. So open access journals are journals that they share their content online and you can just go and access. There is this misunderstanding that open access journals are not good journals or are predatory journals. Yes, a lot of times many predatory journals are open access journals, okay? But not necessarily. There are many good open access journals that are not necessarily bad journals or predatory journals. So there is two general models of publication. If you publish in a journal that is open access, so when your paper gets published, everybody can have access to your paper. If it's a subscription journal, the publisher basically pays for publishing your paper. So that's why other universities and researchers, they need to pay them to have access. So it's subscription. I will explain that there are other ways for you to make your publication open access, and universities like Western University are very supportive in that sense. Also, there is the review process. So what kind of review process journals have? Some journals, they don't have a review process, which makes the journal a predatory journal. Some journals have most journals, prestigious journals, they have a double-blind review process. So it means that when I submit my paper to a journal, they send it to a reviewer. I don't know who the reviewer is. The reviewer doesn't know who the author is. So it's double-blind. If it's single blind, it means that the reviewer knows who the author is, but the author doesn't know who the reviewer is. There is also journals that and especially recently, they have started a very good strategy. They join an author with a reviewer, and the review process is very open. They work together in a mentor-mentee relationship, and the mentor, who is usually a member of the editorial board, helps the author to publish their paper. So you should also know what kind of review process they have. There is also other information, like some journals, they only invite people to submit to those journals. So if you submit, they won't accept it. They are only by invitation. There are, for example, one of the journals that I have published, the Annual Review of Applied Linguistics in my field, is a by invitation journal. So they invite you, you submit, and if it gets reviewed and accepted, it gets published. Some journals for book reviews, they say that we don't accept book reviews if you submit. Our book review editor will approach and solicit book reviews. So they have different policies, which is important again to know. They have also different timelines. So you should know that on the website, they say that from the time you submit your paper to this journal, it takes us 2 weeks to give you an early decision. You know that these times are very important. You don't want to submit something to a journal and then to wait for 2-3 years, and then you're waiting to get promoted or to get a job, and then you're waiting for that submission, and then it's still in the pipeline. So stylistic preferences. So I think that I moved to the next item. So each journal has an author's guidelines on their website, and they explain what they publish. For example, some of them, they would say, we only publish empirical papers. We don't publish theoretical or conceptual papers. We don't publish shorter pieces. We only publish full-length papers. They talk about the submission process a lot of times. What happens when you submit, the procedures that your paper goes through from the submission phase to the acceptance or rejection phase. They talk about the review process. They talk about the timeline, so how long it takes for them to let you know whether your paper is accepted or rejected or desk rejected. I will talk about this again. And they also have information about their stylistic preferences. So some journals say, we only accept APA. Some journals accept MLA. Some journals have specific guidelines for the headings, for the titles. You need to have numbered headings or titles. So those are very different. And this is very important, and I will explain why. Because all this information saves you a lot of time and a lot of efforts. Just to give you an example, if you write something and just submit it to a journal, and if you format it based on APA, and then the journal says that we only accept MLA, so what happens? They reject the paper, return it to you, then you need to format and refashion the whole paper. It takes a lot of time. So that's why targeting the appropriate journal is the first and the most important step in the publication process. You can subscribe to journal feeds, journal newsletters, and listservs, and get information from journals, because sometimes journals have calls for special issues. So you may see something that is in your area of research, and that make sure that this is the appropriate journal for me. So but the question is, where can we get that information? As I said, the very first thing would be journal website. So if you go to journal website, you can see that information. Also, pay attention to what you read in your courses. The literature that you read, the articles that you read, pay attention to where they are published. What is the name of the journal? Who is the publisher? Go and research those journals. Those are the key journals when your professors introduce different readings to you. Basically, those readings can help you to know, the appropriate journals in your field, or the key journals. Look at journal websites. Talk to your professors and experienced members of your academic community. So ask them, what are the key journals in this field, in this area? They can introduce those journals to you. There is 2 very good websites that I strongly advise that you go. And if you go to these websites, basically they give you all the information that I just gave you. So the website Ulrich's Web and Scimago are 2 websites. So you go to these websites, there is a search bar. You just search the title of the journal, and then they give you all the meta information that you need. They say how long the journal has been around, who is the editor, how many issues, what is the publisher, what is the ranking of the journal. So you can get all that information using these two websites, making sure that you are approaching the appropriate journal, not predatory journals. Something that many novice scholars and graduate students may not know is contact editors. So if you read the scopes and aims of the journal on the journal website and things are not clear, you still don't know whether this is an appropriate journal for you or not, just send an email to the editor of the journal. I have done this research, and this is the abstract of my paper, and I was wondering whether it matches the scope and aims of your journal. And many times, and I would say, I always do that. I let people know that this is the right fit for or match for my journal or not. So contact editors. And as I said, when you find a journal that is an appropriate journal for you, make sure that you subscribe to their feed, newsletters, listserv, because that's how you can stay in touch with the journal. If there is any other publication opportunities, if there is any calls for reviewers, for example, a lot of times, especially nowadays, and I will talk about this, journals cannot just rely on their editorial board for review. because they are very busy people. They are established members of academic communities. So they need to go beyond their editorial board and find people who can review submitted manuscripts. So if you are a doctoral student and you've gotten your name out there, they may approach you and say, okay, we want you to review this paper for us. So that's how you can get in touch with, be in touch actually with your target journal. So what are the risks if we do not target appropriate journals? The very first thing is waste of time. So if you submit something to my journal and I read it and I see that it's not a good match for my journal, I do not send it out for review. I'll just reject it. So sometimes for some journals, this rejection takes a couple of months. So you're wasting a lot of time. You submit something to a journal, and then it takes 2 months for them to get back to you and say, sorry, it doesn't match our journal, send it somewhere else. So this is a big challenge. And this is a big reason why you should approach the appropriate journal for your submission. As I said, waste of money, waste of efforts. So you need to refashion, reformat your paper again, the MLA APA example that I gave you, because each journal has an in-house formatting style. So you need to change your manuscript again, submit it to the new journal. And you can see that it takes time, it takes effort. There is the emotional side of it, which many people do not pay attention to it. You get rejected, and then there is disappointment, discouragement, there is burnout. So the emotional aspect of it is very serious. And you can avoid it by just targeting an appropriate journal. The refashioning, reformatting the manuscript can take a lot of time and efforts. If you do not target an appropriate journal, you may fall prey to predatory publishers. And this is a serious thing that can happen to many junior scholars. And let's say that if you submit something to a predatory publisher and they publish it, you not only lose money because they ask you to give them money. Basically, it's a red flag for every hiring committee that wants to hire you because you've published it, and they don't know that, or they may not actually do research to know that you did that not on purpose, but unknowingly. They would say that, okay, you published in this predatory journal. So that impacts your future academic life and career very negatively. So keep that in mind also. And also it impacts your prestige in academia, and also the ethics of knowledge production and integrity of knowledge production and dissemination. Also, predatory journals, as I will explain later, they ask for money, and basically they prey on people because they're making a lot of money. When you publish in those journals, you have to pay them $2,000, $3,000 just to get to publish one paper in a predatory journal. And aside from this financial cost, there is ethical issues and there is issues of prestige. Now, another important challenge for many novice scholars and graduate students is the behind the scene of publication process. So what happens when I submit my paper to a journal? So now I would like to talk a little bit about this process to kind of demystify this process for you. Each journal nowadays, they have an editorial management system. So everything is done online. Just like Facebook, social media, you go online, you create an account, and then you use that account to submit your paper to that journal. So when you create an account, they ask for different information. For example, your affiliation, university that you're studying at or working with, You submit your abstract online. You give a number of keywords that your paper is about. You show whether there is a conflict of interest. You also can suggest reviewers. So let's say that if there is people that you think are appropriate reviewers for your paper, you can say, I suggest these people to review. There's no guarantee, but at least you can suggest those, reviewers. Also, nowadays, with the advancement of generative AI and ChatGPT and large language models, many journals want you to state whether you have used ChatGPT or large language models for writing, for data analysis, for different aspects of your research, conducting research and publishing research. Then you upload your manuscript, and the system creates a PDF file, and then the system sends the PDF file to you or sends a link to you. You go online and you check your PDF file, and you see that everything is okay. You have given all the information. Of course, if you miss any of this information, the system doesn't allow you to submit. So you have to make sure that you give this information, and then you submit it, and make sure that when you submit, you write a cover letter to the editor saying that this is my paper, this is the title, this is an original paper, and it's not under review anywhere else. And and also, this is very important. Make sure that you blind your paper. If the journal has a blind review process, you have to blind your paper before submission. So what is the meaning of blinding? It means you remove any information from your paper that shows who you are or who your co-authors are. Let's say that if in my paper, I cite myself as Habibi 2019, I can blind it in two different ways. So I can write author year. So instead of my last name, I write author. Instead of 2019, I write year. Or I can just write, I remove my name, and I can just write blinded in brackets, which means that I have, made myself anonymous. So this is very important. You have to do that through different stages of the review process. You only unblind your paper when your paper is accepted, and they ask you to submit the final file of your paper. Throughout the process, you cannot say anything that identifies you, any information that identifies you. You have to blind any information that is there. Make sure that your contact information is correct, because journals keep in touch with you when they have the decision, the editors. And if your contact information is not updated, or if you move to a different institutions, so basically they cannot get in touch with you. And another important thing is that do not make double or multiple submissions. Some people, unknowingly, they submit the same manuscript to 2-3 journals because they want to raise their chances. These journals and publishers, for example, if you submit your paper to 3 journals, and those 3 journals are published by the same publisher, so the system shows that this has been submitted to 3 different journals. Let's say that they are different publishers. Ethically, it is not right, because you're wasting people's reviewers' time and efforts to review. So you should wait till you have the decision, or withdraw your paper and then resubmit it to a different journal. So this is a mistake that many novice scholars make. So now you've submitted your paper, and let's say that it's the first thing that needs to be done is the paper goes to the editor of the journal. So the system sends the editor an email and says that we have a new submission. The editor goes and looks at the journal and the submission, And let's say that if there is 2, 3 editors, the editor assigns one of those editors as the main editor of the journal, depending on the experiences and research backgrounds of editors. So if there is one editor, the editor assigns the manuscript to themselves. And then the first step is technical check. So the system shows how much similarity is there, whether there is this submission is AI generated. And also, one of the things that editors do at the technical check is to see whether the manuscript is blinded. So if the manuscript is not blinded, they will return it to the author and they would say, you need to blind it. If the editor sees that it's not the right match, basically they don't send it to reviewers. They desk reject it. Okay? So when you submit, you get one of these decisions. If it's desk rejected, it means that you're done. You have to go to your next target journal. Desk rejection is usually because the manuscript is not blinded. Sorry, is because the manuscript is not the right match, or the quality of the manuscript is not high enough. Quality of research, quality of scholarship, and also quality of language. Language is not the key factor, but one of the key factors there. If the paper is good, very good, but it's not blinded, so the editor would send it back to the author and says, blind your paper, resubmit that. And then if the paper is okay, it's blinded, it's the right match, it's very good, a high quality research, the editor sends the paper out for review. Usually the editor invites 2 reviewers to review the paper. These reviewers are most of the time from the editorial board of the journal or people that you have suggested. If the editor, because people are busy, if the editor invites people and they say, we are busy, we can't, the editor goes beyond the editorial board, looks at other academics who are not members of the academic editorial board, and invites them to review. What is very important here, so how does the editor know? Because each of us, we are swimming in a very small pond, and we don't know all these people. One of the things that editors do is when they're looking for reviewers beyond the editorial board is who is cited in your reference list. So they look at your reference list and they see who is cited there, and those people can be potential reviewers for the manuscript. And here is what is very important for junior scholars. So because nowadays many editorial board members, they are professors, they are researchers, they are reviewers, they have full plates. So there's this chance for graduate students, for novice scholars to serve as reviewers for journals. So you can approach journals and you can tell them, okay, I'm doing my PhD and this is my research area. I'd be happy to do reviews for you. They may get in touch with you. They may send, I did that. We have actually a journal in our faculty. When I was a PhD student, I approached them and I said that I want to review. And the editor, she was very kind, and she gave me this opportunity. And I did that for a couple of other journals. Many other journals, they said no. But I kept pushing and approaching different journals. So this is a good opportunity for you, because when you start reviewing, it has different advantages. First of all, what kind of research is done in your area. So you expand your knowledge of scholarship, of research. People get to know you. You develop this editorial or reviewer experience. And you know the behind the scene of review process. So it helps you in your own publication. Then when the reviewers accept the invitation, the review process starts. So takes 2-3 months, sometimes longer, depending on how many submissions are made. And then the reviewers, what do? They read your paper. They look at the same things that I just explained. They look whether your paper is a good match. Of course, you pass the first filter, that is the editor. So editor has made sure that your paper is a good match. They look at whether it's appropriate for the journal, whether your paper is original, it is timely, it is strong in terms of research and scholarship, and also the quality of language is also a factor. Many people would think that language is the first and the most important factor, but that's not true. The quality of research is much more important than the language of the paper. Then reviewers make a decision, and they have a rubric that they use. And the rubric has a Likert scale. For example, do you think that the methodology is strong? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then, depending on, so they have a rubric for their decisions. They also write a report, like a text report, saying that, okay, this is the topic of the paper. These are the strong things about the paper, and these are the things that need to be improved. Sometimes they send notes that you, as the author, cannot see to the editor, saying that I reviewed this. I don't think that this is a good paper, but it's up to you. So you can see those notes. Sometimes, and they send their reports to the editor. The editor looks at the reviews. Sometimes there is conflicting reviews. One reviewer says reject, one reviewer says major revisions or minor revisions. So here, the editor works as a mediator. The editor, what I usually do is I invite a third reviewer. So it takes, again, some time for the third reviewer to look at the paper and to decide whether the paper is appropriate. And based on all the reports that I have, then I decide as the editor. At the end of the day, it's the editor's decision. Even if the editor says, the reviewer says reject, and the editor thinks that the manuscript has potential, so the editor can reverse that decision. So you get one of these decisions from the editor. And one of the other things that the editor does is that many times reviewers are very critical and sometimes not polite in terms of their comments. So the reviewer kind of sugarcoats the language, make it more understandable, more polite, more welcoming, and then sends this and makes a decision. The decision is accept. Accept is a rare decision in academic publishing. Even very established authors, they don't usually get accept, because accept means everything is okay, but there is always critique. The second decision is reject. So basically means it's not good, you're done, go to the next journal, your target journal. Major revisions is a good news. If you get major revisions, it means that the journal likes your paper, but they want you to revise. And this is a problem for many graduate students. They take major revisions as rejection. So major revision is not rejection. It's conditional acceptance. There is no guarantee at the end of the day. I have had this experience, and as the editor, as the author, sometimes you get major revisions, you review, you submit, resubmit. It goes through 3-4 rounds of review. Everything is okay. At the end, they say reject. So there's no guarantee. Minor revision is the best. If you get minor revisions, it means that there is some stylistic, maybe minor things that you need to. But if you get major revisions, and if you start the review process, hopefully in the next following round, your decision would be minor revisions. And then after that, it would be accept. So the editor sends this decision with the reports to the author. And as I said, the editor makes it more clear, polite. And the editor also, one of the decisions that the editor can make is that, because we had 2 reviewers, and these reviewers, they don't know each other. So as the editor, I can make this decision that I share reviewer 1's comments with reviewer 2 and reviewer 2 comment with reviewer 1. It's the decisions that many editors actually make, just to make sure that each reviewer, although they don't know the name of the other reviewer, but they know, the things that they looked at and the critique and comments that they had. So the challenges, critical comments are very challenging for many graduate students. A lot of times they are devastating. They are very negative. And you think that that's the end of the world, but you have to learn to live with critique and grow thick skin for that. And the emotional aspect is always there, okay? No matter how many times you publish, when you get critique, you get disappointed and, sometimes angry. Sometimes you doubt yourself, self-doubt. Sometimes you think that I'm an imposter. I don't know what I'm writing. And, everyone is publishing and I can't publish. But a very important part of publishing is to develop this strategy and to grow this thick skin, that critique always makes my work better and stronger. And this is my personal experience. I've always, when I look at what I submitted and what got published, I always see that there is improvement there and things have become better. There was things that I couldn't see or didn't see. So it improves and enhances your work. And we call it the review process is basically the negotiation and communication process. These words are a little bit optimistic. There is no negotiation and there is no communication a lot of times. They tell you, do this and you have to do this, especially if you are a novice scholar. Revise this and you have to do that. Add this, cite this. But if reviewers see that you are engaging and you are making changes and you are trying to make the paper better and you are answering their comments and you're responding to their comments, it helps you a lot in the publication process. So make sure that you attend to all the comments that they give you, major comments, minor comments. It doesn't matter if you accept the comment or reject the comment. If you say accept, then you make revisions. If you say, I don't agree with you, give the reason why. For example, the reviewer wants me to read this paper. I can say that I'm aware of this paper, but I have read a more recent paper than this. So I'm saying that I'm not including that paper, but I'm giving the reason for that. So this negotiation needs to be there for the reviewers to see that you are attending to their comments. Another important problem for many junior scholars, especially those who speak English as an additional language, is that they see comments as suggestions. And it's because of the discourse of these comments. For example, the reviewer says, you may want to delete this part. And then the author thinks that, okay, it's a suggestion because the reviewer said may want. So I'm not going to do that. It's the discourse of the review process. It basically means you have to do it. So you're required to do this. They sugarcoat it because they want to make it indirect and polite. So don't take those as suggestions. They are requirements and they have to be done. Give specific justifications and reason why you want to revise or you don't want to revise a part of the paper. And if there is, for example, you read some comments and they are not clear to you, what the reviewer wants you to do, contact the editor and say, the reviewer wants me to do this, and I have no idea what that is. Can you clarify this for me? I've had cases where I set up Zoom meetings with editors, and I said that I want to discuss these reviews with you. And the editor, welcomed that, and we had the Zoom meeting. So it's very important to communicate and negotiate with the editor and with the reviewers. If there is, or let's say that they want you to submit by a deadline and you're busy, you can ask for extension. Can I submit the revised manuscript later, for example? I'm giving you an example. What I do in my own work is when I get comments and I want to revise my paper, I create a table. And this table has two columns. On one column, I write the comments that I received. And right across from the comment, I write my response. Here, I didn't give you that table, but I'm just showing you. You can just tabulate this. So this is how I start my response to reviewers. First of all, I thank reviewers for the comments that they've given me. And then I say reviewer wants comments, and then my response. So you see here that in this comment, I did not accept what the reviewer wanted me to do, but I gave the reason for that. Okay, so it's very important to create this table and to have all the comments there and to have all your responses to those comments there. This shows to the reviewer that you are negotiating, you are communicating, you're valuing the time and effort that they've put in the work. Okay. When you revise your paper, again, make sure that you blind your paper. So do not send information that identifies you. And then you resubmit it, your revision. The same process actually happens. So the editor checks your revised manuscript to make sure that it is okay, it is blinded. The editor re-invites the same reviewers. Sometimes reviewers say we are busy, so the editor goes and invites new reviewers, which is not usually a good news because this extends the process. The paper gets reviewed for the reviewers to see whether you have revised your paper. And then the reviewers send their decision again to the editor. The editor makes a decision based on the reports. And this process sometimes happens 2-3 times. And as I said, there is no guarantee. Finally, your paper either gets accepted or rejected. I've seen cases where after 2-3 rounds of review, negotiation, everything, the paper got rejected. So there's no guarantee. If it's accepted, basically what the journal wants you is to submit the original file, which means the Word file. So now you can unblind your paper. So you can add your citations and everything. And then you sign the copyrights form online. And then you decide whether your paper should be open access or subscription. Many journals, they are based on the subscription model. So you just publish there, they make the money. And what is it? What is in it for you? It's just your prestige. And that helps you for your future academic life. What I always do is I try to make my publications open access. And I contact, and journals basically give you this option. Can your university pay the money for publication? And Western University has been very generous in that sense. So Western University pays the money to the journal, and the journal makes it open access, so it doesn't get out of your pocket. But of course, if you're rich enough and you want to make your scholarship open access, you can pay $2,000-$3,000 to make your publication, open access. So I think I need to move faster and wrap up. For graduate students, a lot of times they turn their thesis into an article. The problem there is that these are two different genres. And when I read the article or manuscript, I see this thesis there. Because you should keep in mind that there is two different audiences. The audience of your thesis is your supervisor and the research committee. The audience of the journal is the bigger academic community. So some of the things that when I read a paper, I pay attention to, and you should keep in mind is different sections of the paper. So do they do what they are expected to do? So in the introduction, you need to create a research space. You need to say why your research is strong, original, timely, and you need to do that fast. You can't take 10 pages to talk about that. So CARS model, create a research space model, which is basically these steps. What has been done, what has not been done, what I'm doing is basically how you create that research space. So in the introduction, you basically take these 3 steps: what has been done, what has not been done, what I'm doing. In the literature review, many people think that they just review the literature and say what has happened. What is important is to critique that literature and to create a space for your research, to show that, okay, this is the literature, this is what the literature says, but there's a gap here. There is a contradiction here. There is a need here. Methodology, again, for many people, is just describing what they did. But a very important part of methodology is to say why you chose specific methods, data collection techniques, methodological frameworks. Results and findings. If you are writing a paper and you have a finding section and a discussion section, in the finding section, you only report your findings. You don't analyze your findings. You just report. When you get to the discussion part, then you relate your findings to the literature review. So there needs to be a connection between your findings and the literature review. So you say, this is what the literature found, and this is what I found, and why my findings are important in this bigger and broader literature. Make sure that you do not make very bold claims. You need to qualify your claims and hedge your claims. Look at your reference list. Make sure that there is a match between what you have cited in the text and in the reference list, and they follow specific formats. And then last but not least, the language is good enough, comprehensible enough. If you're interested in predatory publishing, I strongly advise that you read this book that I have edited recently. So predatory publishers are publishers that they approach you. They say, we publish your paper fast, and you can be our editorial member, board member, and they exploit, abuse people, and then they basically take a lot of money out of people's pockets. As I said, open access journals are not necessarily predatory journals. These journals have a very fast track for publication. You submit and it gets, but we know that the review process is long. You can't, so they don't have a strong, robust editorial review process. I'm showing you an example of an email that I received, a predatory email. So this email wants me to write about classical literature, which is not basically my field. So I have no expertise in classical literature. They say that we have peer review is immediate, and the paper is published immediately upon, so they show that it's very fast. They also say that I can be a member of the editorial board if I publish in this journal. So these signs show you that this is a predatory. And look at the beginning of the email, my first name and last name, they're not in the right order. Look at the ending. Christina, classical literature, blah, blah, blah. They give a website. If you go to their website, you can see the information that I just explained in this presentation. So you get a lot of, I'm sure that some of you get these emails about conferences, about publication, and you have to be aware of those things. In terms of generative AI, I can only say that nowadays journals, they have mechanisms to detect whether you have used AI or not, and journals are changing their policies accordingly. So you should state whether you have used generative AI in your data collection, in your literature review, in writing your paper, and it's completely okay. I've seen that even Anglophone scholars, established scholars, when they submitted to my journal, they stated that, okay, I used ChatGPT to revise this manuscript for me, for example. So look at journals' policies and instructions for that. Last but not least, I would like to say that if you want to increase your information about publishing, go to conferences. In conferences, there is always these sessions where editors, they talk about, like today's session, they talk about the publishing in academic journals. Start with less low-stake genres. So you don't need to go and target a very, very prestigious journal first. Start with doing book reviews, for example, and publish in a Q2, Q3 journal, not a Q1, just to get to know the process. Make sure that you build your international academic community. You make friends and get to know people in your local context, international context. Be present on social media. You can make a lot of friends. And some publishers like Elsevier, on their website, they have tutorials, video tutorials, just like what I explained today. You can go and watch those tutorials and learn about writing and publishing. And ask your universities to provide, workshops, seminars, or your professors, and collaborate with your colleagues, with your supervisors, with your professors for co-publication. And hopefully, I hope that universities start offering these more structured, long-term English for research publication purposes courses. This brings me to the end of the presentation. Thank you so much, and I would like to open the floor for questions and comments.
Thank you, Professor. It's very helpful. Thank you. I got a question that you have mentioned about despite the literacy problem, there are also published pressure. So do you think the scholars, especially the novice scholars, they are facing more published pressure or less?
I would say compared to, it doesn't mean that established scholars are not under pressure because they need publication for promotion. So every year, academic institutions and universities, they want you to give a report, a performance report. Part of that report is how many papers you've published, how many conference presentations you've done. But yes, but the thing with them is that they are established, so they're under less pressure than graduate students who need those publications for getting a job, getting hired, and then be in the pressure for the rest of their, academic lives. Do we have anything from, yeah.
How much data is required to publish manuscripts that are?
Very good. It's a very good question. And I would like to talk about something that we call salami publishing. What is salami publishing? Let's say that you do your thesis and you interview 10 people. And then because people want to get more publication, they think that they can publish one interview as a paper, and then they can have 10 publications. That's not how it works, okay? Especially if you're doing quantitative research, basically the findings should be enough to be able to generalize to the bigger population. If you're doing qualitative research, I remember that there was a submission where the author had interviewed 5 people. And when we send it out for review, the comments were, the information is not thick enough. So 5 is not enough for, so it all depends. There is journals that they publish case studies, just one case, or autoethnography, you just look at yourself. So it all depends on the policies of the journal, what they publish, what they don't publish, how much. But one of the important criteria for research is thick description and data. So it has to be, although it's not that, there's no magic number, but it all depends, yeah.
Regarding the appeal process,
Mhm.
I think that here to talk about it, but how much chance of an author or authors have to appeal if they got rejected?
No, there is no appeal. Yeah, I've never seen that in my journal or in the journals in my field, but I assume that, yeah, some journals may have that. But then again, if you appeal, basically they would send it out to other reviewers. I know that there is cases, and I sometimes do that. Academia, just like everywhere else, is a political context. So you have friends and you have enemies. You write something and they send your paper to one of your enemies, and basically a lot of times you get rejection. So what I do is, when I suggest reviewers, I say, these are the people that you may want to send this manuscript to, and these are the people that I don't want you to send my manuscript to. So that is, but in applied linguistics, which is my field, I have not seen appealing. But anyways, even if you appeal, it goes out for another round of review.
Question from online.
Mhm.
Thank you for this suggestion. I was approached by a legitimate journal to review a couple of submissions, but I was still very suspicious as I hadn't request to review for them. I ignored the request, assuming it was something predatory. I understand now that it may have been legitimate, but will pay closer attention in future.
Yeah, so as I said, if the signs are there, if they ask for money, basically the journal is predatory, okay? But because there is a limited number of reviewers nowadays, journals, including my own journal, we approach people who are not necessarily on our editorial board. But as I said, it's a very good strategy to go to the website of the journal, to research that journal, to make sure that it's not a predatory journal. And it's a very good opportunity if someone wants to become a reviewer and to get their foot in the door. Any other?
I think from our online people, I'm loud enough that they can hear me.
Do we have any other questions from?
Thank you. That's all. Okay, thank you everyone for being here. And the talk will be posted on our website, and you can go and if you share this slide with us, you can also
Sure.
add them to our website. And thank you everyone for your time. Thank you.
Thank you so much.